Well, I'm joined today by Bonnie Greer and by David Reynolds. We're talking ahead of a discussion that we're going to have about the impact of Barack Obama and what it means for America more broadly, which is something which David's very well equipped to talk about, having just written a major book about American history. So I just want to ask a couple of questions. If I can start with you, Bonnie. Bonnie, what do you think is going to be the impact of President Obama in relation to the kind of notion of cultural wars in America? Do you think that he's going to be able to overcome those kind of schisms which have characterized American politics in recent years? How do you see that playing out?
I think the culture wars haven't disappeared. They're going to be even more exaggerated, because the other thing that hasn't been taken on board is not only the huge factor of this racial victory, if you like, but also this is the first East Coast Northern president we've had since JFK. So there is an enormous cultural shift in that part of the direction of the country and part of the direction of that whole Eastern Seaboard, Northern aristocracy, plutocracy that Barack in a very interesting way represents. So that has shifted to that part of the country, and that's where the battleground is going to be. I mean, the last presidential race, the way I read it, besides this great monumental racial leap, is that this was a battle between the North and the West and the South. So that's very interesting.
David, do you share this view that that in a sense President Obama is quite a traditional progressive figure, despite the fact that his race makes him novel, his campaign makes him novel? Actually, he does line up along those traditional divides in American society, geographical, political, and on racial lines.
I think his hope is that he can be eclectic. He can reach out to different groups. Whether that is actually possible, I don't know. This is still a very, as Bonnie is saying, a very fractious country, and it seems to me that those cultural conflicts are by no means burnt out, so that, as with any president, he has a window of opportunity, a degree of goodwill, despite already the right-wing sniping, and he's got to use that before his political credibility, his political capital runs out.
And then can I ask you about a broader question about America and America's place in the world? I mean, clearly one of the kind of major challenges for us is that we have all sorts of global phenomena which are not matched by global governance. Global governance isn't able to, whether the threat is terrorism or climate change or whatever it might be, global governance is very weak. Do you see President Obama getting engaged in that issue around the emergence of new institutions of global governance? Do you think that's an leadership role we can hope America will play?
He's obviously going to be a more internationalist president than his predecessor. He's also got various issues high on the agenda, green issues, which appeal to a very large constituency around the world, and is the way that a lot of international organizations are moving. On the other hand, he is going to have considerable international problems, in the sense not just the obvious ones in the Middle East and so on, but the fact that the United States is a very heavy international debtor, and his capacity to do things at home and abroad is going to depend on the continued capital flows into the United States, which is an open question now.
Do you have a sense that President Obama sees this question of renewing global governance, global democracy, if you like, as being in his kind of priority tray?
I agree. I think that the issue is going to be the flow of capital. That's the number one situation right now. There's signs that China is getting tired of American capital, and they hold an enormous amount of American debt, if not all of American debt. So the situation is going to have to be whether the president can actually stop that flow and bring back confidence within the markets, particularly internally, in terms of America's ability to spend and all that sort of thing. That is going to be the first order play. He was elected, I believe, at the end of the day, to actually allow Americans to retell their story to themselves. And in that way, they can then sort of fuel themselves up to actually make the difference. If he can't get them to do that, if it's already so damaged by what's been happening the last year and a half, he's got a very short amount of time to get it organized.
So it's manage the crisis first and think about grand plans for global governance second.
I think so. No, David feels what I think.
Okay.
So.
Bonnie, David, thank you very much for joining us today and look forward to the lecture.